Hello? Oh, hey, Susie. It is? Oh my goodness. What? Girl, I've just been getting my hair done and getting ready for 10 Minute Tuesday. Oh, it's 10 Minute Tuesday? Oh, well, welcome to 10 Minute Tuesday. Hi, everybody. Welcome to 10 Minute Tuesday. I'm Crys'Dawna, and welcome to 10 Minute Tuesday. So I have a couple questions. I have quite a few questions this week, and I have one that is, I've got a few actually about waxes. So I want to kind of go over that first before we move on to the other one. So first, we got to set our timer. So start, we got 10 minutes on the clock, 10 minutes on the clock. And the first question that I want to go over is, what's the difference between wax and clear coat? I'm glad you asked. And why would someone use wax versus clear coat? I'm glad you asked that as well. So wax is not a permanent sealer. And what I mean is that you have to reapply wax every 6 to 12 months, depending on the wax, the brand, how much you use the piece. A clear coat, you never have to reapply. So I've had this question of, well, why would someone use wax versus clear coat? That's crazy. When you clear coat's permanent. Well, people are feelers, and just like some people really like the feel of a chalky chalk paint after it's done and they don't want a sealer on top of it, or they don't want a wax, then there's some people who don't like that and they want that smooth velvety feel of wax or the look of wax. Or there's people who like a gloss, so then they would use a clear coat, or they like a flat look, and so they'll use a clear coat, or a satin look, and they'll use a clear coat. So it really just comes down to, at the end of the day, personal preference. Now, generally, for me, when I'm flipping pieces, I never use wax as a sealer if I'm going to resell the piece. Now, if it's a custom and my client asks me for wax, then I absolutely will. But there are a few situations. So let's say that it's a dresser or a highly trafficked piece. I always suggest that you do a clear coat on the top of it, because a clear coat is more durable than wax in the long run, okay? So also with, depending on, so like you've got brands out there that have a built-in sealer into the paint, and some people are like, well, why would someone top coat that, or why would someone wax that? Again, it comes down to if you're a feeler or not. So that is a question that I got. So now that you know the difference between wax and clear coat, hopefully I cleared that up a little bit, I also had the question of, so the question was, why do I put down clear wax before I do like a dark wax or a colored wax? So I use easy peasy spray wax because I'm lazy and I don't want to hand wax an entire piece in clear first and then go and do it again in another color. So I do the easy peasy spray wax, which is a clear wax. And what that does is it helps that colored wax kind of move a little bit better, so it doesn't soak into the paint as much. So when I put the clear wax on, it's kind of like I'm priming it with the clear wax for the dark wax, and it makes it easier for me to move around the dark wax. And then I had the question of, and you don't have to do that, it's just something I do. If it's a piece that I know is gonna soak up the dark wax a lot, I will, just because I want to be able to manipulate it a little bit better. I guess that's the key word, is you can manipulate it a little bit better if you put clear wax first. Also, someone had asked, how do you lighten the wax up? So let's just say that you didn't put clear wax down, or maybe you did. Either way, it doesn't matter. And you put dark wax and you wiped it back and it was a little bit too dark. What you can do is you can take the clear wax, however you want, whether you are rubbing it on or you're brushing it on or you spray it on. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna put that clear wax over that dark wax as almost eraser. So then you're gonna put it over top of that darker wax. You're gonna take a rag and wipe it back. And that will help lighten it up and get some of that dark wax off. So that is how you can lighten it up, and that's how you can use waxes to kind of manipulate, get the look you want, lighter, darker, boom. Okay. So another question was, what kind of brushes what are the different types of brushes and what are the uses for them? So honestly, it depends on you as an artist. There are some artists who only like to use synthetic brushes. There are artists who only like to use natural bristle brushes. And for me, I've got kind of a combination. So I do use Dixie Belle's synthetic brushes. They're really high quality, they're really soft. And so they're really good for putting on finishes. They're also really good for blending. But I'm also a big fan of a high quality synthetic brush for blending as well. So I'm kind of one of those, I like both brushes. As long as it's high quality and it doesn't have a bunch of bristles falling out, as long as it's soft, whether it's synthetic or natural, I'm a fan of it. Also, with wax brushes, and I might be wrong on this, but 9 times out of 10, people use a natural bristle brush for wax. I've always used a natural bristle brush. Anyone I've ever seen uses a natural bristle brush. I know that they do have synthetic wax brushes out there, but I just like a natural bristle. It kind of, it holds the wax and pushes it a little bit better. So that's what you could use a natural bristle brush for, is wax. Sorry, that's like natural bristle brush, natural bristle. Say that 5 times fast. Okay. And then another question was, I hear these people say scuff sanding, sanding. What is the difference? Okay. So a scuff sand would be something that I would say would be probably like a 120 to a 220 grit. Okay. Something that's not meant to just take the finish off, something that's meant to just scuff it. So whether it's you scuff sand a shiny piece before you paint it, clean it really well, and in every paint line has different prep that you have to do. So a scuff sand would be to give the surface a little bit of something for the paint to bite to. Now, there's also, we say scuff sand in between coats of paint or in between coats of top coat. And so that's kind of the same thing. It's just kind of a light sand to knock down anything and get any imperfections off, then you're going to clean it. Now sand, when I say I'm sanding something down, I try to say strip, whether I strip it by sand or I strip it by a chemical, so that way it shows a difference. But generally on the top, when I say like I sanded the top down or I stripped the top down by sanding it, that means I took that existing finish off. So scuff just means that you're scuffing it, okay? You're just scuffing that surface, whether it's to get paint to bite to it or you're knocking down those imperfections in between coats of paint and top coat. Now sand, when I say I'm gonna sand this piece down, that generally means I'm gonna sand it down to the pre-existing finish, whether there's paint on it, or I'm gonna sand it down to the raw wood if it's stained. So I think each person has their own meaning of it, but generally, across the board, scuff means light. Sand, when someone says you need to sand that finish off, that means take it all the way down. So hopefully that answers the questions about that. We're gonna go back to the wax thing. So someone had asked me about wax versus glaze. Okay, so wax is meant to protect your piece. Yes, there's wax that you can use to age it and all that other stuff. But in the grand scheme of things, wax is generally used to protect your piece, okay? Glaze is not a top coat. So a lot of times, if I'm glazing, I like to top coat, then glaze. Then you're gonna want a top coat over that glaze. So unless it's a product that comes from a line where it doesn't need to be top coated. And that, again, is just depends on each paint line is different. But glaze is not used as a protectant. Wax is meant to protect your pieces, but also can be used for aging and things like that and giving different dimension. Glaze is only used for giving dimension and different looks. It is not used to protect your piece. Unless you have a situation where I did a vanity and I mixed my gloss top coat with the sapphire pearl glaze. And then in that case, it's a 2-for-1 deal. So if you are working with a company's glaze that has a built-in top coat, or you put the top coat in yourself, then it can be something to protect your piece. But in general, most glazes are not used to protect your piece. So I hope that made sense. And I know it's kind of like, what did she just say? But, oh, that's our timer. All right, guys, that was 10 minutes. Oop, I swear this, okay.
I try to hit the cancel button and apparently I have to hit the actual timer up there. I don't know. Anyways, you'd think I'd get it by now, right? So if you guys have questions, please put them in the comments below, or if you're not comfortable putting them in the comments, shoot me a message and I will answer your questions. I'll never say your name, so don't feel like I'm gonna call you out and say, hey, Susie B asked me this question. No question is stupid, okay? There are no dumb questions or whatever they say. There's no stupid questions. I mean, that there is sometimes, but generally speaking, there's not. So thank you guys so much for watching. And again, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe and hit that bell. And I will see you guys next Tuesday. Have an awesome week.